memory. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is share a little bit of a PowerPoint with you, and then afterwards I'll take it off and we'll do questions and answers.
喂，
Okay.
我而家呢個又唔係我嚟。
Can everybody see that slide?
Yes.
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 Okay. So as I mentioned, today is managing your memory, and I'll be your presenter. Our goals for today are to identify changes in memory and cognition due to normal aging, to learn ways to improve your memory, and also to recognize the signs and symptoms of illnesses that do affect your memory.
I need to come in.
So let's start with thinking about
Monique.
cognition. And cognition is the mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the senses. Basically, it's how we think. And we don't often break down the way that we think into all the various aspects of thought. But I wanted to share with you what are the major aspects of thought. It would be memory, reason, abstraction, perception, organization, judgment, attention, and language. Now, some of these do change as we get older, but normally these changes are not significant. For example, with memory, you often have a slowing of your memory. It takes a little longer to recollect things, but you can usually still recall things. It just takes a little longer to find it. With judgment and reason, those normally remain without any difficulty. However, things like perception, for example, you might not have as strong a sense of touch, and you might have difficulty with your vision due to cataracts, or you might have problems with taste. So the way you perceive things can change with age, but not necessarily that they all go away. Organizational skills also remain, but it sometimes takes a little longer to get things done. So it's a general slowing, okay? And attention, it's a little harder to concentrate as we all age. So with changes as you age, the main thing is that most of them are not impaired, it's just slow. And this will vary by each individual person, and also by which aspect of cognition are we talking about, because they don't all have the slowing at the same time, and they also don't all have the same amount of effect. So it really looks at what is the issue here. Most older adults can retain their ability for judgment without any impairment. Okay, so specifically when we get to memory, what are the changes there? I already mentioned that it slows down a bit. It takes you longer to find maybe a word, but that word can still be fine. It also might take a little bit of a difficulty with word search, that you are not quite sure what the word is. You knew you used to know it, and maybe a little later on in the day, you'll realize that you have it. But for the most part, you still remember that that was something you wanted to know earlier in the day. A lot of people with problems with finding words just use a similar word. Then they go about their day without any difficulty, and maybe later in the shower that night they're like, that was the word I wanted. And they remember that they had a difficulty finding it earlier in the day. As we all get older, another issue with memory is that it becomes more and more challenging to concentrate on many tasks at once. So multitasking becomes difficult. There might be exceptions, like if you're used to having muscle memory with knitting, you don't often have to think about knitting while you watch a TV show. But if it comes to something that you really need to concentrate on, it's difficult to do more than one thing at a time. So your attention needs to be focused on the item that you're doing. And you'll often notice that with these normal aging things, I'm not talking about it starts just when you hit 60. Many of these progress from like the age of 30 on. So you'll often see like teenagers wait until their parents are very involved and busy doing something that requires a lot of attention, maybe doing their taxes before the uh, teenager asks to do something they know that they won't be normally allowed to do. Like, oh, mom, can I go to the movies? And the mother is so concentrating on her taxes that she's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then because of her attention, she never really paid attention to what the daughter was asking. So later on, when the daughter comes home and is like, the mom says, where were you? She's like, well, I asked you if I could go to the movies. And the mom's like, well, I don't remember. That's because it never went from the short term memory of right then and there being asked and processed into the long-term memory because the mother wasn't concentrating on it. It didn't have her attention, and therefore it never got into the long-term memory. And that becomes very common as everybody ages, that they need to focus on fewer things at a time. And with all of these slow aspects, you do have to remember, though, that despite the slowing, people can still improve all of their skills with age, that you can still learn new things. It might take you a little bit longer to learn something new, but that is partly due to the extra attention that you need to do. However, most older adults are capable of learning new things, and you can create new memories. Again, just focusing on it. Okay, I think I lost my screen. Did everyone see that? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to clear the drawing. Perhaps that
Ah,
ended up on your slide and it stopped the share. So
quite
you'll
all
have to
right.
reshare it.
Yep. Okay. The other thing is, even though I said that we can have difficulty with finding words, we can still improve our vocabulary as we age. So that's another area that a lot of people don't think about. Um, as we all get a little bit older, you start to remember spelling. You start to remember, like words you didn't know. You can still learn these things. So, what can we do to improve our memory? Some of the best things we can do to improve our memory is to improve our overall health and to maintain our health throughout our life course as much as possible. And one of the best things you can do is watch your diet. Make sure that you're getting a lot of fruits and vegetables, that you eat well balanced meals, that you have a lot of variety in your food that you eat, less sugar and less salt, and smaller portions from what the average American would probably have, so that More frequent meals are good, but smaller meals is generally the way to go on that one. So if you maintain a good diet without having that yo-yo effect of gaining weight and then losing effect, through most of your course, you can maintain about the same size, then that's a little bit easier on your health. Also, exercising and maintaining your memory through exercise. Now, think about it. When you exercise, you're improving your circulation, you're improving your oxygen levels. Those will go up. And more oxygen with the brain, it's very helpful. You're also improving your flexibility with exercise. And those activities of getting out and moving about, it helps you sleep better at night. And sleep is the next really most important aspect for maintaining your memory. If people don't get enough sleep, they do start to have cognitive problems. It's harder to think clearly throughout the day. So you do want to try and get between like 7 and 9 hours of sleep, depending on your body, what you've been doing throughout the day, and don't overlook it. That's a part of maintaining your own health, is to get enough sleep. Now, too much sleep can be a problem. So try not to take little naps throughout the day, lots of them, or plan a nap, but just one nap. I often speak with people who say that they can't sleep at night, and then you find out that that's because they've been sleeping through most of the day. So when it comes to nighttime, their body's already had the full 8 hours of sleep. So napping is fine, but just not consecutive naps throughout the day. And limit it half hour, hour. And then water and maintaining hydration. That's very important to your brain. When you start to get dehydrated, that also affects your brain cells, and it's not going to help with your memory. People can forget to drink enough water, and then they may um, have a little bit of difficulty both with processing, um, with urination and things like that. So make sure you're well hydrated, and if you're having any medical issues that make you reluctant to drink water, definitely talk to your doctor about what the correct amount is for you. Generally speaking, it's recommended that people have about 8 8-ounce glasses of water a day. However, there may be some medical reasons for you to adjust that. Definitely talk to your physician about it. Another thing you often don't think about is smoking and how that affects your memory. Overall, smoking makes it more difficult for people to get the correct amount of oxygen to the brain, and you don't want to have issues with breathing in any type of smoke. So, like from fireplaces or vehicle exhaust, any air pollutants can make it more difficult for your brain to function. So, try and limit the amount of, or eliminate smoking, limit the amount of exposure you have to air pollution in general. And manage chronic diseases. Those things would be, for example, high blood pressure or high cholesterol, diabetes. If you can keep those under control, it'll help your cognitive function a lot more. For example, sometimes when people have undetected diabetes, they start to exhibit memory difficulty. And if they have undetected high blood pressure, they might have, like, let's say, these little TIAs, the transient ischemic attacks, those small little mini strokes. So if you can focus on all the things to take care of these chronic illnesses and see your doctor about it. Make sure that you are maintaining overall good health with diet and exercise. Then your thinking will improve, or you won't have the limitations due to these diseases, is a better way to put it. And our last brain health series, we had Dr. Robert uh, Karnkowski come and talk to you about medication and management. If anybody needs to view that again or want to see it, please contact our office if you missed that brain health series, and we can give you the link to see that again. But medications do affect memory. So think about when you take your medicine, follow your doctor's advice on that. Talk to your doctor if you feel like your medication is making it difficult for you to think at certain times of day, and they can assist you with regulating that and what's the best schedule for you. But if they don't know about it, they can't help you adjust it. So be very upfront and honest with your physicians about your medicines and how you're taking them. And just remember, they can affect your memory. Okay, so throughout our life, as we learn new things, we are making connections with our brain cells, our neurons. And the more of these connections you make, the more brain cell connections, the better it is for your brain with all aspects of cognition, of thinking, right? And so the more brain cell connections you have, then the more reserves you have, I guess is the best way to put it, as we get older, because we do start to lose a few brain cells a year from the age of 30 on. And the brain then will constantly make some new connections to kind of accommodate for the lost brain cells. However, um, the more connections you have, the better it is for your brain to readjust and make changes. So, one way that you can help make these neuronal connections is to learn new things, to always stimulate your brain. That's why lifelong learning is a really good way to strengthen brain connections. You can also do it through trying new experiences, because when you have a new experience, you're learning something new. You're putting yourself into new situations. And when people develop illnesses later on in life that affect their memory, let's say Alzheimer's, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, they do notice that people who have been lifelong learners, who are better educated, and I'm not talking better educated necessarily by going to school, but people who really focus on learning, that they like to learn throughout their life, these people, um, they have more reserves to help them adapt and compensate for any other illnesses. So, one of the best ways to protect your brain is to continue to learn and try new experiences. And that those new experiences could be, let's say, doing a sport or doing learning an instrument. There's lots of ways that you can build up your reserves. Different parts of the brain are responsible for different activities. So you don't only want to stimulate one part of the brain. For example, the area of the brain that handles language is different than the area of the brain that handles song, which is a little different than the area of the brain that handles visual spatial things. So mix it up. Don't only do one thing, so that you're stimulating all parts of your brain. And if you practice this as early in life as you can, then that is better for you. However, let's start at where we are now. We can't go back and in a time machine and say, okay, I'm going to learn this when I'm 20 if we're already in our 40s or 50s or 60s. So, what do we do now? It's kind of that old adage of use it or lose it, that wherever you are now, you can continue to start stimulating your brain a little bit more. Some people are already doing this, exposing yourself to those new experiences, and that includes new people, to do puzzles and problem solve, to do word searches, anything that really makes you think, and the type of um, challenges to your brain that are new. We learn better when we're exposed to new things. Um, it's nice to read and continue to experience in your reading new things that you're learning, whether it's learning about new places, or you might learn how to do a new activity, or you may just enjoy literature and reading for the fun stories that you can have. Okay. So another aspect we've noticed, especially through COVID, but there was a lot in the literature before, is that isolation and loneliness are shown to negatively influence cognitive ability. So, in that case, you're not interacting with others if you're isolated. You're not having those new opportunities frequently to see other people. And that type of communication is important for our brains, for our overall health. So, what can we do about it? You could possibly join a club or get involved with a community organization. You may want to volunteer, um, be more active in your church. There are lots of groups and ways that you can see other people. Um, Potentially, go to the libraries, go to the senior centers, get out into your community wherever you can. And as I said, volunteering is a wonderful way to meet new people and have this type of social interaction. Okay. Okay. Then I talked a little bit about attention and how important attention was earlier. Well, it plays a big role in your memory, because if you've never paid attention to something, you can't then put it into your memory banks and move it from short term into long term memory. So, attention also helps you with thinking about how new information connects to things that you previously learned. And that helps create these new neuronal connections in your brain. Okay. But you have to, I guess, think about ways to get it to stay into long term memory. And some people like to do things such as make a mnemonic, a little saying, so that they can remember something. Uh, for example, every good boy does fine. Right? Have you ever heard that saying? Yeah. Um, and that would be how people could remember where the music is, I believe, um, so that you know what the different notes are. Anyway, the point is that there are ways that you can help yourself remember things, um, whether you create a song to remember something, or some people like to think of making sentences out of the first word of everything. Those will help, where it helps with that transfer from short term memory to long term memory. Keep in mind, when we're under stress, stress not only can have an influence on our uh, heart and our hormones, but stress can also interfere with our ability to concentrate and maintain our attention. And that's the first step to improving your memory is to concentrate on something. So if you have the ability to reduce your stress, take a few moments out of the day, maybe to meditate or spend a little time on self-care and um, physical activity like exercise helps many people with that. Reducing your stress in whatever way possible can help you with your overall memory because it helps you with your focus. Now, some people have um, noticed that with their slowing of their memory, they need to use a few assistive devices or strategies. For example, keep a regular schedule. The more routine, the easier it is to remember things because you do it on a regular basis. So, routine reinforces the things that you need to do. If you're having something that's a little out of the ordinary, not with your normal routine, it helps to put it on a calendar. Creating schedules, posting those schedules throughout the house helps as well. I know some people that will put a note on their front door and it lists the things that they need to do. They ask themselves questions like, did you remember your coat? Did you remember your keys? Did you remember your phone? Have you turned off the coffee pot? So that whatever they're having a little bit of a difficulty with, by creating a schedule and also making these lists, it helps. So, other lists that you might want to do is if there's something you don't remember how to do. Uh, for a lot of people I know with the computer and how to log on to email, they'll make a list with those instructions and post it right near their computer so that they know step one, turn on the computer. Step two, hit this button, and that helps them. Um, because not only is it a reminder, but when you see things that are written, it's just another way to get things into your memory. So, any of the ways that you can uh, you can say it out loud and you can read it. Those things both help get things stored in your memory better. So the different ways of intake, seeing it visually, hearing it auditory, those all, and writing. If writing it out helps reinforce these things in your memory as well. Up at the top, I have label cabinets and drawers. Sometimes people forget where things go or what they had in it. Well, if you label those things, it makes it easier so that you don't always have to remember, oh, where did I keep those scissors? Okay, if you put little notes on your drawers and cabinets that scissors are here, or dishes or drawers, it not only helps when you're unloading your dishwasher or putting your dishes away, but it helps if you're trying to do something quickly and then other people in your home know what your system is. And you don't only have to use words with your labels, you can also use pictures. Some people find that putting a picture of the plates help. Whenever you're trying to learn a new language, like let's say if I wanted to learn Spanish, I would put little notes on my cabinets with the Spanish way to say what the Spanish word was for uh, plates or cups. And that would make it a little easier to learn it and it makes it easier to remember uh, what goes with what. Okay. Some of you may have regular medicines where you use a pill box, and depending on personal preferences, people like different types of pill boxes that they want to remember that certain medication is taken in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. They may get one of those pill boxes that lists every day of the week and then also has what's the medicine for the morning, for the lunchtime, the evening, and right before bed. And then they fill all the pills out, let's say on Sunday night, and then they're set for the rest of the week. And they don't have to keep remembering, did they take the pills out of the pill container that's already sorted in the pill box. Some pharmacies will even do this for you, where you get a strip of prepackaged pills, and each one tells you which time of day you're supposed to take it. And then you just pull it off as they go along. So if it's noon and you look and you see, uh-oh, I have my breakfast pill still have been taken, then you know you missed those medicines. Some people like talking clocks. I like to look at the assistive devices that can be found for people with disabilities, and this would be for any age, depending on how uh, you have personal preferences. For example, I had a niece who couldn't get up in the morning, was constantly late for school, and she got this clock that it was an alarm clock with a little flying disc that you had to find the flying disc in order for the annoying alarm sound to go off in the morning. So that made her get up and out of bed. But you can have all sorts of clocks that will help you with timers and things that will make it easier for you to remember something important. Just like a lot of people use their oven timer to help them remember things, or an egg timer. You can take advantage of those to make it easier for you to remember that something like, let's say, taking your pills is coming up, or that you have to go to an appointment. You can set these timers to assist you. However, the simpler you can make things, sometimes the easier it is to um, remember things. For example, if we could use a lot of technology and some of it's really fun, um, but if you don't remember how to set it up, you may need to get a partner to help you. Lots of people like to use the Alexa, which is something that is one of the smart technology where you just say, Alexa, play my music for me. I'd like to hear jazz. And you give it commands and then it will find the items for you. Well, that requires that somebody set it up, and you can follow the instructions. You can have somebody who's done it before assist you. It may be very helpful because you can program it for your schedule, and it can then tell you when you need to do something. Or um, you can use other high technology things like bill payer service to help you pay your bills. If you find that that's something you keep forgetting, you can talk to your bank, go online, program it where your bills are automatically paid. You can even look at low tech things like use the phone to call a wake up service or a reminder service. They have those like hotel concierge where they will call you and do this type of wake up call for you. So don't always think that the technology needs to be fancy. Sometimes it can be something very familiar. Uh, I had a friend who had cataract surgery and she needed to use the microwave. So I brought over a microwave that didn't have buttons because the buttons were hard for her to see. It had an egg timer as the dial, which was easy to use because it was more, I guess, low tech on a high tech appliance. Using this egg timer, she could figure out from that how much to go for 15 minutes, something. Okay. And then think about what you can also hire out, if you're having problems with your memory, you can outsource some of your activities. And one way to outsource would be like the bill payer. You've set that up. Another would be to rely on your accountant. You can also look at assistants or personal shoppers. You can, if you can't get to the grocery store, or you feel like you always forget one item, you can go online and list, like with some of these shopping services, for what your regular grocery order is, and then they deliver it to you. So that's another way to help if you always have on the computer your list of shopping goods, and you can outsource and have the shopper bring it to you, one of these delivery services that works as well. And then some people hire a professional case manager, um, somebody who will remind them about when they have doctor's appointments and double check to make sure that they're doing what they need to get done for their health care, what they need to get done for any of their finances. And another way to outsource is to get your family involved if you're having any memory problems. See if they can touch base with you, if they can remind you as well. Also, physical therapists and occupational therapists are good for advice on what assisted devices you can use. Okay. So, what happens when your memory issues are a little bit more than the average per, person as they age? So, sometimes if you notice that things are a little more significant or more severe than just forgetting a word here or there, and that forgetting things has become more of a problem in your day to day life, then you may have one of the illnesses that is considered a dementia. And the word dementia is just used to describe a variety of symptoms. And if they're not sure exactly what's causing those symptoms, and they've checked you for all the other illnesses that can be treated, it's often that the medical community will come up with the assessment of Alzheimer's disease. And Alzheimer's disease is progressive, it'll get worse. It's degenerative, your brain cells will continue to break down. And with Alzheimer's disease, which is the most common form of illnesses that creates symptoms of dementia, um, it's not something that can be treated. They can't prevent it, and they can't stop it in its tracks, but they can address some of the symptoms. There are a few medications that can help not make the symptoms less severe, and that is helpful for some people. But if you suspect any of these things, you need to go see the physician and try and get um, a diagnosis, because sometimes the issues with your memory are not related to the diseases that are going to get worse and that are untreatable. Sometimes it's a treatable illness. For example, it could be undetected diabetes. It could be that somebody had high blood pressure that wasn't being treated, or it could be that there was, let's say, a small tumor or an infection. There are many illnesses that can make you have memory related problems, but if you haven't checked at the doctor, they can get severe enough to the point where they're not reversible. So it's best, if you're having significant memory problems, to see your physician. If it is Alzheimer's disease, then there are many things you can do early on to prepare for how the disease progresses. It's good to share with your family, see your lawyer, get everything arranged so that you have a person who's going to make healthcare decisions for you if the disease should progress. If it's Lewy body disease, Lewy body is very similar to Alzheimer's, except you might notice that the person tends to have more hallucinations, both auditory and visual. They sometimes have difficulty with sleeping and may doze off in the middle of the day quite frequently, as well as having, how would you put it, a little bit more agitation, and that's often due to the auditory or visual hallucinations. Lewy body symptoms are often associated with Parkinson's, although it's not a direct result. Um, some of the other common illnesses that cause memory problems would be vascular dementia, where you're having strokes, or if you have high blood pressure, and it can also uh, cause those transient ischemic attacks, the little mini strokes that collect and add up to larger problems in cognition. And then there's the temporal diseases, of which PICS is probably the most well known. And because that affects the frontal cortex of the brain, you will see sometimes more agitation, difficulty with emotion that often has an earlier onset. In people in their 40s, it's not uncommon to have PICS disease. Start that early, and there may be more agitation. Another issue for memory related illnesses are infections. HIV in the late stages of syphilis. People can have other infections that then start to affect their brain. So, for all of these, you get to the doctor and they're going to do a variety of things for their exam. One is to take a history of your health and also with your family history. They're also going to probably do a blood test, a urine analysis, maybe even a little mini mental exam, and they're going to try and screen out whether anybody has depression, because depression often mimics Alzheimer's. So when they've done this whole battery, and also taking a picture of the brain, because with things like Alzheimer's and Lewy body, the brain will shrink, and then the area that's in the center of the brain will also get a little bit larger. And so the overall size shrinks, and you have less crevices in the brain. They can see from the picture if this is a problem, and then that will help them in their diagnosis of whether it's Alzheimer's or one of the other issues. They can see from the picture of the brain if there's been a stroke, things like that. So, overall, whenever you find that your memory is more severe than the mild slowing and that we mentioned earlier, then you want to seek the medical help. You also want to think about getting social help, getting to have your family involved, looking at opportunities to have people assist you with day to day tasks or what you might need help with, whether it's getting to the doctor or getting out to the club or going to church. And then seek assistance with psychological help. And that may be if you're feeling depressed, you know, that it's better to reach out, call a professional, and let them help you determine what are some of the next steps. So I'm available for questions now. And before I do, I just wanted to let you know you can follow us on social media if you're into it, or you can also call our information and assistance line. Um, that may be a good way to start getting resources. You can also just call 311 and ask for senior services, or you can email us at aging@cityofchicago.org. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, and I wanted to thank you for your time. And there's my contact information if you wanted to email me. Okay, we'll now open it up for questions. And if you can raise your hand, I know many of you know this feature down at the bottom of your screen. Yeah. Under reactions with that little smiley face, there's a hand raising. And then Danielle, you can call on people for me, okay?
So it looks like we do have a question in the chat that asks, how do you know when you are depressed?
That's a really hard part. A lot of people don't know that they're depressed, and hopefully family and friends will assist. But generally speaking, if you find like you're sleeping a lot, and I don't want anyone to self-diagnose, often your physician will try and do a screening if you're keeping up with your annual physicals. So that's a good measure to help you. If you have loss of appetite, you're sleeping a lot, there's apathy, nothing seems to interest you, those are signs of depression. The good news is that depression is treatable, and it's treatable at any age. So it's not something you need to live with. And getting the type of help is the first step. Trying to get out and see people is a help. Trying to maintain a routine and doing things helps. But it's best to do this under the guidance of a doctor or a therapist, that they are assisting you. Maybe that medication is needed, but there are many things you can do for depression. But a lot of people, if nothing interests you, and that overall sense of apathy or dread would be a general sign that you're depressed.
Okay, and it looks like Cynthia. We have Cynthia Henson, Miss Bender, and then Fred with me next. So Cynthia, you can feel free to ask your question and unmute.
Okay, hi.
Hey,
Thank you, Danielle, and thank you, should I say, Dr. Russo.
it is.
Didn't know that, but I did meet you in the basement when you came to the 1615 building.
Oh, okay. When you were
Yeah.
downstairs for the recognition of it, luncheon, yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
So thank you very much for all of the information. My brain went on overload knowing all of this stuff.
You're learning new things. Lifelong
and-
learning.
And no wonder I was tickled when you said, sometimes I can be thinking about some name I want to remember, and then in the middle of the night, I wake up with this, name of something that I was thinking of early in the day. And it's, I used to kind of be worried about it, but, now I'm not. And you reiterated. So you let me know, like I'm right on track with, stuff that happens as you get older.
Right.
Like my sight, and my hearing and my smelling. You started out with that. So
Yes.
I have a better understanding. And I try to make every doctor's appointment, although they make them virtual a lot of times, and I'm ready to look eye to eye. but I know that I don't have any control over that. So thank you
You
very
can
much.
ask often if you ask a physician, if you feel more comfortable seeing them in person. I have
Mhm.
found that with COVID, many of them will prefer to schedule everything online, but that if you make the request, they're often willing to do it because they don't have many people coming into their office. And some will, some won't, but they may say, okay, you can come, but you need to wear your mask. And these are like our standards for coming in. So definitely don't just automatically assume, ask them if they're willing.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you for all the information. Have a
Oh, you're
wonderful
welcome.
day.
You
Mhm.
too.
Thank you. Miss Bender, you may feel free to unmute and ask your question. I think you're muted. Oh, there you go. I cannot hear you. Did we lose you?
She can type it in the
Type
chat.
it in the chat. Yeah, she might have to chat it. Fred, I see you next. Fred Tenenbaum.
Thank you. Two things. One, I'm a retired pharmacist, a good source for some of the questions that you say that you may need could be your pharmacist. If you can't get to the doctor. The other thing is I have, for your assistive device, one of the best ones I know now is a cell phone.
Oh, right. Yes.
Okay.
You can put in reminders. Yeah.
Retired pharmacist. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay. Miss Mary Taylor, you can feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Well, so not so much of asking a question. I wanted to share something. I went to a doctor's appointment last week, and they asked you questions about suicide, depression, and from that, she decided I needed to talk with a psychiatrist. She asked me would I refuse, so I told her no, I wouldn't refuse. A lot of people don't like talking to them, but it helped. I'm going through a bunch of depression, death in the family, the virus. So yes, it helped. Talking to a psychiatrist helped.
Right. I'm glad you said that because situational depression, which would be like if somebody's grieving and or a particular event happened, that one is definitely something that can be treated. Therapy is very good for that. And the medication sometimes is what is needed. But if it helps, why not try it, So I'm
Yeah.
glad you are following up on that. And with COVID, the issues of isolation and not seeing people and not being able to get out with friends and family and all your loved ones has made depression a little bit more common. So I'm glad to see that healthcare providers are stepping up and doing these mini mental health screenings to make sure that you are going to be treated and that it doesn't go away. Because not everybody realizes that they are depressed until somebody asks them certain questions. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Angie,
Now we have Miss
should we
Bender.
try
Yep.
her again?
Yeah. Are you there? Can we hear you? No, can't hear you.
Ms. Bender.
All right.
I see Cordia. We'll have to have her try again.
Okay.
Cordia, your hand is raised.
Okay, yeah, you know what, what I used to do, since it's locked, just being locked down, it just got on my nerves, and I was tearful, and I would just just so down. And I find when I listen to music is very uplifting. You know, I get gospel music, I get,
Mhm.
you know, just music in general. And I'm learning now to get out and, you know, living alone, it just works on the brain, period.
It does.
I have to find my way. So what I do, I mean, I play my radio all day long, all
Mhm.
day. As long as I'm in the house, I got my radio going.
Right.
So that helps me. And please believe me, guys, listen to your radio, turn that music on, get going. It helps.
Having the radio on is nice. Some people like the TV on as background. I find if you can maintain as much as your routine as possible, like maybe you can't get out and go to your church, but your church might have an online program for you to participate in. Maybe you can call people that you normally see at church and touch base with them. Or let's say if you are a volunteer. Maybe you can't go out and see the people you used to volunteer to see, but you could give them a call and touch base that way and have the visit on the phone. But as much as possible, if you can get out of the house, that will help. People taking walks and meeting outside is good during COVID. So it may take a little bit of planning. I did want to mention that you should go and check out the online senior centers as well, because we are doing more virtual programming so that they have regularly scheduled exercise classes that you can participate in, or you might want to learn something new and there may be an arts and craft activity that's going online, or they might be having a guest lecture in financial management, or those are those opportunities for you to learn new things. And if you can get outside, you may be meeting new people. Just wear your mask and practice social distancing. So
Okay, we do have quite a few more questions. Let's see, Miss Parker had a hand raised.
Good morning, everyone. No, I actually have my hand raised for Ms. Bender. She's having trouble with her microphone, but she wants to let her volunteers know that after this meeting, if you all can hop on to your regular Zoom meeting ID.
Okay.
thank you.
That's all
So
I
Thank
have.
everyone
you.
got
Thank
that?
you.
If you are participating in foster grandparents, that after this meeting, log on to their meeting. Okay.
Let's see,
Who's
Miss
next, Dan?
Dyer's hand up. Arlnet.
Hi, how are you?
No, well, how are you?
Hi.
Question. I'm always I watches a lot of commercials on TV, and I'd be very curious about things, to improve your health. But I want to ask about privileges. Have you heard of privileges? It's like a brain memory to help the brain.
Is it a medication?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
It's like it's you can buy it from Walgreens.
Oh,
It's
I'm not
Prevagen.
familiar with that. If it's a
It's called
medication,
Prevagen. It's called Prevagen. And I've heard people say it has really helped them by using it. I'm not sure. I've never used it myself, but a lot of people have said it's helped them. It's called Prevagen.
I'd say talk to your doctor and just make sure that if it contains anything that it doesn't interact or be, not recommended with whatever medications you might be taking. But as far as vitamins and supplements, eat a well-balanced diet and don't go too crazy with the vitamins. A multivitamin is usually enough, but cover it with your physician just to make sure. Even though I recommended a lot of different ways that you can use assistive devices or help with improving your memory by doing puzzles and exposure to new things, keep in mind that none of these things will counteract Alzheimer's disease, and that there's not one thing that's going to be like the miracle cure. Um, Doing puzzles helps, but in stimulating all parts of your brain helps. The better your brain is, the healthier it is, the more reserves you have, and then you can, to some extent, improve your overall brain functioning, thought. But if you have one of the diseases that it's going to continue, like Alzheimer's, um, the best you can hope for right now is to slow down the symptoms. For example, if you treat high blood pressure, you're not going to have the damage due to that. For vascular dementia, you can slow it down, but it would probably still progress. With the medications for Alzheimer's, there's like 5 of them right now, and those address the symptoms. It's trying to relieve the symptoms. It's not stopping the disease from progressing. So just wanted to make that clear, that we're focusing on keeping your brain as healthy as possible and to reduce any cognitive problems that come from many of the treatable diseases. But then there are some things that if you get Alzheimer's, you can really only address the symptoms. Okay.
We do have one more hand raised. It's
Okay.
the person, iPhone 13. You can unmute and ask your question. Whomever's device was iPhone 13.
Hello, my name is James Thornton. How you doing?
Oh, well.
Hi, James.
Hey, that was a very informal meeting that we just had. I appreciate that you and Miss Bender put us on that. I just want to say some things I don't remember right away and it comes back later, but I understand that. I'm probably getting older, like that's all. But thank you very much.
Well, that cognitive slowing is normal as we age. They're not sure if it's due to metabolic changes like fewer hormones, if we're slowing down like that, if there's some type of changes with the myelin sheath on the neuron. Those things are still up for debate. But what we do know is that it doesn't really impede your day-to-day functioning and you're still able to function. I like to look at it as it just, with all the memories that I have, all the information, it's like my file cabinets are full in my brain and it takes me a little longer to sort through them, but I
Yes,
eventually get there. It's not like I don't remember what I needed or what I wanted. It might take a little while to sort through and get to that point because there's just so much data it's stored, and that's okay. Helping yourself with those routines and writing things down, keeping notes, using your iPhone with all the fancy gadgets for note taking and reminders. Those things are good. But it's been a pleasure speaking with everybody today. And if you have any questions, feel free to send an email.
Can you put your contact information back up so that
I can.
really quick?
Well, really quick's a different story. I'm not that quick.
Or when you can.
There you go. All right.
And it should be a dot in between Victoria and Russo.
Sorry. Yeah, Victoria.Russo.
All right. I think,
Okay.
yeah, we've actually gone over by a few minutes. Constance, I know you had something to say. We're 5 minutes over, so I don't know if everybody had a quick second, but you had
Could
your
you
hand
put the
raised.
phone number back up?
Can you reverse one, Victoria? There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll get you to our information and assistance line.
And we appreciate you all. Thank you so much for being a part of today's session. We will send out the recording as well as a post survey later on today, but thank you so much.
All right.
Way back